meeting, but a very interesting week, not only for the United States, but then also the great state of Ohio. So obviously, this past week, the unfortunate happenings at the Capitol, obviously very unfortunate. And just our thoughts and our prayers go out to those who were not only affected, but then also just the effect that it has on our democratic process. So a very interesting week to say the least from a political perspective. I don't know about you, but I'm dragging a little bit this morning, but I'm okay with it because the Cleveland Browns won and they shellacked Pittsburgh. So who watched the game? Marty, did you watch the game? Yeah, you're in your Browns? Yeah, she's showing her Browns. I like it. But I don't know if the fellow Rotarians were like me. It was beginning of the third quarter, and I was just contemplating how we were going to lose because it was going to happen. So I was just figuring out how we were going to lose. And Joy, you mentioned it before we got kicked off. It wasn't a win until, there was 0 on the time clock, right? So yeah, everybody was just, but what a great win for the Browns and a lot of fun. So for tonight, and if you did not watch the trailer, Phil, you had mentioned it before, but the trailer that was sent to you in your email, it's a little hype video for the OSU game. So that's tonight. So obviously OSU is taking on Alabama, and that begins at 8 o'clock. Of course, they drag that on, so by the time it kicks off, who knows, it'll probably be 8:30, right? So hopefully we're celebrating a national championship for the Buckeyes. So anybody got any take on the Browns or the Buckeyes? Anybody want to share anything deep with us? No? Okay. A couple of Rotary pieces, announcements. You should have saw in your email that we are trying to establish a nominating committee. So we are seeking your vote to establish that nominating committee. And in our bylaws, it says that we must make notice to the members on establishing a nominating committee, so that it was in the emails that have been sent to you the last week. If you have not voted for individuals to be part of that nominating committee, please do that. We would appreciate that so we can get that established. The nominating committee will appoint essentially the leadership of the club moving forward. So it would be, obviously I'm current president, we have incoming president Terry Snoddy, and then the nominating committee would elect or select, make a recommendation to the board for our president to follow Terry. So again, if you haven't voted, please do that. You can pick up to 5 names to be on the nominating committee. I have a note here that we have somebody new on the line, but has been I know his family has been a part of Rotary, and we're really excited to add Christopher Bueller. So Christopher Bueller's our newest member. Welcome, Christopher. Thank you for being a part of Rotary, man.
Yeah, happy to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, so maybe we're going to do classification talks. We talked about that, but maybe just a quick overview as to your role and what you're doing professionally.
Yeah, sure. So once we a couple years ago sold Bueller's, just prior to that, I was in the process of transitioning over to our other company, E&H Hardware Group. So we own 25 Ace Hardwares all throughout Ohio, and I oversee all of the marketing activities for the organization. So, but we're still based right here in Worcester, and our offices are actually right above the downtown Bueller store. So still around and happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks, man. And again, we're thrilled that you decided to join Rotary. Other announcements. I don't have anything from a Rotary perspective. Obviously, and trust me, every week it won't be talk about football, but we had to cover that today to say, go Browns and go Buckeyes. But does anybody from the floor have any announcements they'd like to share? Lynn or Greg, is there anything that you think I'm missing at this point? No, Lynn is saying we're good. Nope. And Greg, you're okay? Nothing yep. We're missing, bud?
Other than I will make one comment about the game.
Yeah,
I'm very glad that the Steelers have their terrible towels, their because they were used last night to cry on after the game.
Well, they haven't been used in that form or fashion for, in the most recent history. Jim, what's your thoughts on that, man?
I think I need to keep my mouth shut. I'm really kind of in a minority here right now, but
Yeah.
All right, Jim, we still like you.
all I will say is my hat goes off to the Browns. They were a better team than the Steelers last night. That's what I'll say. So
Yes, exactly. Well, anything else? Nobody has anything for us? If not, then we're going to get right into our program. And I need to apologize. I'm going to do this right now. So Adam is not the past director of Local Roots. I kept putting that in the email. I'm sorry, man. And Joy told me yesterday, hey, you need to straighten that out. I said, sure, I will edit that. He's the director. And what did I do? I sent it again as past director. So my apology, guys. I apologize to you, Adam.
That's okay. I just wanted to say the next time I get fired in a public setting, I hope it comes from my board president and not Justin Starlin. No.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. Well, without further ado, I'm going to kick things over to the vice president of, I think you're the board with the board of Local Roots, Joy Schmitz, who's going to introduce our speaker. Joy?
Thanks, Justin. Hi, everybody. So Adam Schwieterman is the current executive director of Local Roots Market and Cafe. He's been in this role for 2.5 years.
You want to hear it?
But his involvement in the organization goes much further back. After earning a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration degree focused in supply chain logistics management from Ohio State, Adam worked for Frito-Lay. From 2009 to 2015, he was an operations manager in distribution and later a business unit leader in manufacturing. With education and corporate training under his belt, Adam took the plunge into entrepreneurship in 2014 with one of Wooster's first food truck startups, Umami Bites. While looking for local produce suppliers for his budding business, Adam discovered Local Roots and quickly took advantage of the shared use kitchen to launch his food truck business. From day one at Local Roots, Adam was always inspired by the co-op model and the mission of supporting small and sustainably focused businesses. He's now leading Local Roots into its next chapter with progressive and innovative ideas and a strong commitment to the community. I met Adam at Local Roots in the store probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I still see him in the market on a daily basis. He has a very hands-on approach to managing the business, and he personally knows all of the farmers, the producers, and the members, and is always so eager to tell the Local Roots story and share our vision and ambition. So here's Adam to do just that.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I guess the first and foremost thing I could say is I certainly appreciate all of your time and energy. I see a lot of community leaders on this call, and I don't know all of you, but I look forward to getting to meet you someday. So I just want to start off by saying I'm honored to have your time and look forward to the opportunity to share a little bit about Local Roots and myself and what it is that we're working on today. Admittedly, I would say that I don't know enough about Rotary. So getting ready for this call, I was getting on the internet and doing some research, and I stumbled upon something on the website, which I'm sure that you guys are fully well aware of, but I'm just going to quote it here. It says, "Literacy, peace, service, and health. We are working toward a better world, and we stay committed to the end." And I was jazzed by that, really energized reading that and thinking it's awesome to see so many people that are committed to that in the city of Wooster and Wayne County. And also feeling like a lot of the people that are in Rotary are also shoppers at Local Roots. And it's clear that there's kind of a shared vision there for making the world a little bit of a better place. Local Roots, a much more small and independent and less impactful organization than Rotary. I know you guys are international with memberships in every city across the entire world almost. But Local Roots kind of, I think, comes from the same place when I read about the foundation and the start of Rotary
it really seems like there's a lot of common threads between those two organizations. So I also just want to say thank you to all of you who I've never met before and those who I have for all of the service that you're putting together to make this community better. You know, in the 10 years, 12 years, I guess, that I've lived in Wooster and Wayne County, I've continued to see this place blossom. And every day, every week, it just seems to get better and better, with ups and downs, of course, like any community. But that is in no question, no doubt, due to a lot of the hard work that you guys are putting forward. So I just wanted to start off by saying thank you. We did put together a PowerPoint presentation for today's call, but that is no excuse for everybody to drop off the video and walk away or fall asleep. So I just want to call that out here first and foremost and say, if we go 30 minutes and I talk the entire time and nobody asks a single question, I will have failed my first large scale public speaking effort. I really hope that this is interesting for you guys, that it's exciting and engaging in some way, that it tickles a part of your brain that makes you think like, wow, I never really thought that way before. I didn't know that. And with that, I would encourage you to ask questions. I hope that there's a moderator out there that's kind of keeping an eye on some questions that might come up in the group chat, but I'm going to also try to do the same thing. And you can always interrupt me too. Just if something comes to your mind, you know, I hope that this is a little bit of a dialogue as much as anything, as opposed to me, you know, putting you guys to sleep. But with that said, I'm gonna share my screen here. Hopefully I'm not as tech savvy as a lot of you, I'm sure, but I'm gonna put that up here and see if I can get our presentation going. Somebody give me a thumbs up. How am I looking?
Adam, it looks pretty good.
I'm gonna put this into presentation mode.
Yep.
I hope. I should be full screen.
Looks good, Adam.
All right, cool. So I've lost the ability to see the Zoom call, so I'm kind of in the blind here. So if anybody has any questions, just, yeah, go ahead and holler at me. Like I said, I do see a lot of connections a little bit just on the surface between Local Roots and Rotary. So we wanted to start off by just reading the mission to you guys. Local Roots is a mission-driven organization, and I wanted to tell you verbatim who we are, what we're about. I'll get more into this later, but Local Roots is a co-op, and as a co-op, one of its most important functions is to be really transparent and sharing that vision and that mission with everybody that we possibly can. So Local Roots' mission as it currently stands is to establish a vibrant, thriving, year-round marketplace for the purpose of connecting consumers and producers of locally grown foods and other agricultural products. To accomplish this, we must be an anchor for community events and gatherings, encourage healthy eating, champion local producers and farmers, expand local economic development, and lead the way in environmental sustainability. And as the executive director, I'll tell you that is a massive goal for a small organization. So I find myself every single day waking up with a mountain of work to try to accomplish, which has been fun and challenging and all part of the job that's been so great for the last 2 years. The next slide here is talking about what it means to be a cooperative, and I'm judging based on the number of names that I know that most of you are on the call, that most of you are familiar with Local Roots. I also think that you know, the vast majority of you have been into Local Roots, but that maybe, just maybe, not all of you are aware of kind of the DNA that makes up Local Roots. And I always say that that's our designation as a cooperative. There's all sorts of cooperatives out there. A lot of people are more familiar with like utility cooperatives. But what makes Local Roots a little bit special is that co-op model where, if you aren't familiar, I'll kind of give you the basics. It sits somewhere kind of between a for-profit and a not-for-profit, almost like a large publicly traded company where people can come in and buy shares. But Local Roots very specifically has it's a non-stock cooperative. So everybody that buys into the market, and it kind of makes us unique too, that it's both producers and consumers can can buy a membership only gets one membership. So everybody that is set up within Local Roots has an equal vote. It's kind of a democratically elected system. So like Joy is our vice president, for example. Those people are voted in by the members of the cooperative, and nobody's any more powerful than anybody else. So it's very kind of like grassroots and organic and democratic in the way that it was started. And that's kind of what sets us apart a little bit. The financial and strategic transparency note there on the top left is something that's inherent within a lot of co-ops across the country. You know, every kind of business sector has its little bit of commonality that you'll see between different types of organizations that all work in the same sector. And co-ops have that kind of like through and through. It's in their blood. They're independent. And they really promote financial and strategic transparency. So if you're a member of the co-op, you can come into my office. I hope you schedule a meeting. But if you don't, you can knock on the door, sit down in front of me, and I will read you the financials of the organization top to bottom. You know, there's nothing that's off the table. Everybody that's involved gets to know from beginning to end where the organization is going, what it's doing, what its priorities are, and how it's going to achieve those. And that has really stuck with a lot of people. You know, I'm going to talk today over the next 30 minutes or so, and you're going to hear me be really proud of the organization that I'm in charge of. Of course, we have our problems and challenges and opportunities like every organization does, but something that Local Roots has done a really good job of over the 10 years that started way before I ever got involved was build a lot of community buy-in. So as a co-op, like I said, we sell shares. Everybody that's a member is an owner, and we have over 2,000 members life to date. So that's pretty cool. And over 250 of them are actually producers. So small, almost entirely small, independent operators, mom and pop shops that are either farmers or gardeners, chefs of some sort, bakers, artisans, makers of homemade goods that sell in and out of our store every single year. And that's grown over the years. I don't know how many of you were here that can remember Local Roots in the very beginning, but it certainly has changed quite a bit. And I'm excited to kind of to talk to you about that and where we're going here. The very beginning, for those of you who weren't around or saw it but didn't really know exactly what was going on the insides, the management systems of Local Roots. I thought it would be good to kind of explain where we started so you can see where we're going. As Local Roots came into inception was right in late 2000s. 2008 was kind of where the idea first popped up. And farmers markets across the country in the USA were having just like a banner decade. It wasn't something that was really well supported commonly in the 70s, 80s, and in the 90s really started to pick up that towns and cities across the country would start to have their own little farmers markets in the town square. It was a common practice in Europe, and then sort of with some other international countries as well. And the United States started to adopt it early on, and then it never really blossomed, but had just a massive recurrence in the early 2000s, and 10 times the amount of farmers markets existed in the US after the early 2000s that did in the 1990s. And that number stayed. Like the cities that adopted a farmers market like Wooster did, and so many others have really kept hold. And a lot of the farmers market vendors were looking at produce in a way that was like, you know, this stuff is growing 7 days a week. It grows on Monday, but we're only selling it on Saturday. And I'm sure you guys can appreciate as business people from a business model standpoint, it's like you're growing something that's perishable on a Monday, but you can't sell it till Saturday, and then you can't sell it again till the next Saturday. That just doesn't make a lot of sense. So the farmers were looking at a way to try to figure out how can we get that 7 days a week. And they started meeting in the library parking lot right across the street from where Local Roots is now. And it started out with, like a lot of good ideas do, just a couple of concerned citizens that wanted to come together and were thinking about a better way to do business. and they would meet in the library parking lot. And the fable kind of goes, they would go into the library would shut down, they would come back out into the parking lot, and they were so infatuated with the idea, so obsessed with trying to figure out how to get this thing up and running, that they would work in the parking lot until the lights of the parking lot would come on and give them a few more hours to keep going. And that whole time they were looking across the street and they would see the empty 140 South Walnut Street building where Local Roots is now. And it was just kind of like a match made in heaven. And so for the last 10 years, we've been in a lease with the Wayne County Commissioners. Thank you very much for your support. And, you know, I wasn't here at this time, but the stories I hear is that those first couple of years were like card tables with linens and was really like an indoor farmer's market. And that went on for just a short while until the idea really blossomed. And people grabbed hold of it and started to support this idea that I think is, you know, more than anything, kind of just inherent in a lot of people all across the world. It's not like Local Roots is special in this way. And chefs or foodies, culinary people, or just even gardeners, I guess, have known this forever, is that freshness really matters. And you can hear that on the Food Network today, or you can get on to, you know, cooking shows and go to high-end restaurants in, you know, New York City or Napa Valley or Paris, and they will all talk about like how freshness is something that you just can't duplicate in your food. And I think even just if you grow tomatoes in your backyard, you know, there is nothing quite like going out and picking one off the vine and slicing it up and eating it in the summer. That doesn't matter how much you pay for it, one, and it's nothing against, you know, farmers in California. I'm sure they're great people, but when they're growing their tomatoes and they're shipping it all the way across the country, let alone the environmental impacts of putting that much carbon into the air, the freshness just isn't going to be there. So that idea really blossomed within the town. And I think people have just really grown to love Local Roots for that idea and that support. And that has enabled it to grow even more. So it started out with just that indoor farmers market feel. And then very early on, they put in the artisan room. That's our second picture there on the left side. That has been huge for Local Roots and for a lot of the artisans that might be in that same spot that a lot of our farmers are, where they're not big enough that they can hold an account at a large scale store. You know, they're not going to go to Bueller's, for example, and they're not going to go to Aldi or Walmart by any means, obviously, but they still want to be able to have a craft or have a trade and be able to sell in a market. And Local Roots has kind of thrived in that niche. And over the years, and I'll get into it in our next slide because it's kind of one of our core competencies at this point, Local Roots did develop 2 kitchens with the help of grant funding. And that's become a staple kind of who we are. And then the last picture I have on the slide here is of a kid celebrating one of our annual events. We have a Chinese New Year, a Lunar New Year celebration, but Local Roots has kind of always been really proud to host a lot of community events. We always look at it like a hub of the town for people that want to be able to get out and get to the community and gather around over food, that Local Roots would be a place to do that. The next slide here I really wanted to get into was talking, and it gets a little bit into business development kind of talk too, but you know, back in 2013, we had started the market, and the market was kind of getting up and running a little bit. And we started to expand it into the artisan market, which helped with the holiday sales. But one thing we realized was that producers, you know, can grow food, but people want to eat something that's been made for them a lot of times. And that could just be something as simple as like a bagel. If you know him down here on the bottom left, James with Wootown Bagels, and James and Caitlin, they're a cornerstone of our market. And they're an example of somebody that utilizes our shared use kitchen. Another one up here on the top left is Katie with her pierogies. If you haven't had the pierogies, be careful because they're addicting. it'll keep you coming back, and we'll see you in the store every single day. You guys will have to talk to me on a weekly basis once you have your first pierogi. But we realized that just offering people produce was not enough, that a lot of times they want food to be able to be made for them. And so with the help of a grant, we were able to build the commercial kitchen and the cafe kitchen in 2013 and 2014. So now that you can go into Local Roots 7 days a week, proudly open on Sundays now, and get either some sort of a lunch, hot lunch we usually do from 11 to 2. James does his bagel sandwiches on Saturday morning. And then we actually put in an independently owned but co-op member supported coffee shop in 2020 as well. And so that's always kind of been, like, if you look back at our mission, we talk about expanding economic development. This has been something that's really special for a lot of people in this town. And I'll get into it in the next slide a little bit. We'll kind of talk about economic impact. But it really means a lot for, this is Josh with his hot sauce over here, David with his hummus plates. We have 14 shared use renters in that kitchen right now. And I think it's safe to say that 100% of them would not be able to afford or have the business collateral to be able to put forward to start up a kitchen on their own. You know, they're small independent operators, and the cost of the investment for a commercial kitchen or cafe could be up toward $250,000 a lot of times or more. And if you just have an idea, like you want to make hot sauce, but you've never done it before, you want to make hummus, but you've never done it before, if there's not a shared use kitchen available in a town near you, that can just as well kill your idea, because you can't, I guess you guys know this, but you can't just make food at home and start to sell it. You know, it has to go through a licensed kitchen. And with the help of that grant funding, Local Roots launched this shared use kitchen that has enabled these businesses to come in and kind of get their feet wet, and then also kind of thrive and survive. So we're really proud of that aspect of our business and what we're able to offer to the community from that standpoint. It really says a lot about what Wooster has to offer. And you can put some numbers behind a lot of that stuff. So we had an independent economic impact study done for a feasibility for a nonprofit business incubation service that we're looking forward to being able to support here out of Local Roots coming up. But Sustainable Economies Consulting, our friend Elizabeth over there, if you don't know her, check her out, did an independent study looking at survey results from our producers. And what we found was that over 100 full-time jobs based on the respondents are supported each year by Local Roots demand that comes from either the market, the cafe, the kitchens, whatever that is. And that 175 incremental part-time or seasonal jobs are supported because of that. And then we had respondents from those surveys said that 47 new jobs were created each year just to support Local Roots. And that really meant a lot to us. Like I said, you're going to hear me kind of be proud and pound my chest a little bit and kind of, you know, put my head up and my shoulders back, because I know that we're a modest company and we're small, but kind of coming from the grassroots organization that we were 10 years ago, where we had card tables and, you know, linens and produce on the floor, to what we are now, really feels like a massive accomplishment. And it was done kind of in a slow and steady and methodical way that involved the community and was done democratically. So it's just something that we're really, really proud of. You know, over here on the bottom left in this circle, you can see there's a section there on the intentionally low commission rates. So most of Local Roots revenues that it uses to cover its overhead comes from commission on sales. So people come in on consignment. It's not like a traditional grocery store. We don't buy their stuff. It just comes in and we hold shelf space for producers, and then we sell their goods and we take a commission on it. And a strategic advantage that I think has allowed us to grow, that we've stuck with and kind of really doubled down on over the years, is contrary to most businesses models, is that we actually said we want to reduce our commission rates to as low as possible. We want as little revenue coming into this organization as possible from our producers, and we want to sell as much stuff as we possibly can at that low commission rate, because every dollar that is earned from an independent farmer, somebody that is just doing it on their own, maybe mom and pop, or their kids are working for them, but they don't have a lot of overhead and they don't have a lot of manufacturing. They're never going to achieve kind of economies of scale of large scale businesses. They really need every single dollar that they can to go back into their pocket so they can invest it, have some security in their business, allow it to help them grow, and continue to provide their goods. So we have kind of kept with that model where we said, you know, we're not trying to squeeze our producers. It's not something where we're trying to make it hard on them. We're taking the opposite approach, and we're keeping the commission rates low so that we can keep money in their pockets. And that is a testament, you know, if you're in business, money has to come from somewhere, from the support of our community. So people that show up there, oftentimes they're going to pay a little bit more for products. It's a little bit like the farmer's market or a CSA, if you guys are familiar with that, where you just go direct to the farmer. But the belief is that if you go out and you vote with your wallets and you support that business model, that in the long term it'll pay off. And we think it has at Local Roots. So the next part here is kind of just talking about a new season. And so we were going to talk a little bit about what's ahead for Local Roots. If you look at that picture that's in the market on the left-hand side there, there's a lot that sticks out to me. We had the entire market overhauled with LED lighting in the last 2 years to kind of reduce our energy consumption and also make it a little bit brighter in the market. We had a lot of new custom shelving built to kind of make it easier to merchandise and hold more products from our producers. We had all new signs put in the market, both placards that are indicating what kind of products are being sold and information about the companies that are on there. Like I said, transparency is really important to us at Local Roots. People, we think, really just want, you know, our customers anyway, really want to know where their food's coming from. They want to know the company, what they're doing with their money, what's in the ingredients. Maybe it's organic or maybe it's not, and they want to know. And so we're trying to provide as much information for them as possible. And we've got new signs to do that. We also have a lot of overhead signs here. We call it like wayfinders that are helping customers more easily find the products that are in our store. And that was all of that was part of a whole market makeover, which was identified in our strategic plan, which Joy helped out with a lot. So thank you, Joy. But we found that Local Roots is going to be successful, and it's going to be able to help its producers if it makes it more consumer focused. So we hope that if you like Local Roots and you're in there shopping, that you've noticed the difference, because we put a ton of time and energy and money, frankly, into making that store more consumer focused. And it's really turned out and made a difference for us. The other piece of it is kind of the one-stop shop mentality. We're trying really, really hard, not just to be able, you know, in the past, I think Local Roots, a lot of times, even I would say myself as a consumer, I'd find myself going in there and I liked the place and I liked the idea and I wanted to support it, but I'm like, I can't buy all that much here. And I'm really proud of the work that we've done recently. I think that if you come in and you grab a shopping cart and you walk around and you spend 20 minutes in there, you'll be surprised at how quickly you can fill it up, because it has turned into a place that has a lot of really great products. And then the other thing is, how local are we going to stay? Over the years, that's evolved, where when we first started, it was very, very close to home. If we didn't know the producer, we weren't going to sell it. And as the internet has kind of become more available to us, and companies have become more transparent about where their foods come from, we look a lot more now at companies that maybe are just more regional to us, that as produce dies off. In the winter, maybe we look to a company that isn't necessarily from Wayne County, but maybe they're from Southern Ohio and they have a greenhouse, and we can call them and get to know them and bring their products up. We've also looked more just outside of Ohio as well for a lot of items that we just can't get in here. So you can go into Local Roots and find environmentally friendly home care products, for example. If you don't, if you want to get away from plastics, or you want to get away from non-natural ingredients or something like that, we kind of have a health and environmental focus, and you can find those kinds of things there too. And people have really liked that change as well. So, here's a graph of our annual sales that have changed over the years. This is just our top line. But 2020 was our best year on record by far. And you can kind of see, as a director, I'm always a little bit hopeful. So I'm kind of making a 4-year trend out of this, where you're seeing we're really having a spike right now. And we have a lot of...
Adam, what do you attribute that? I mean, that's a big spike there, bud. So I mean, what do you attribute that to?
Yeah, you know how business goes, it's complicated. So it's hard to look at it and say just one thing happened and is really making a difference. But we have put some new leadership in there over the last couple of years. Our producers have done an amazing job managing the pandemic, as has our staff. But the shutdown that kind of happened, I think, forced a lot of people to take a look at, A, they're worried about their health. B, they don't want to go into a crowded place. I think we did a pretty good job responding to that. Like, if you're interested in getting your groceries, but you're paranoid about the virus, or just, being careful, maybe you have a pre-existing condition or something along those lines, you can call into the store and somebody will literally grab a grocery cart and walk around the store and pick your groceries for you. You can pay over the phone, and then we'll walk it outside, and a lot of people just pop their trunk and there's no touching, no interaction. They don't have to talk to anybody. We'll just put the groceries right in the back of their car. So a lot of people have been pretty positive about our approach to that and our changes to it. And then I think, not to call out the big meat industry, but when a lot of the meat packing plants were being shut down, we had a lot of people coming to us and really testing our farmers. These guys are not big operations. And when they're selling 2 to 3 times as much food this year as they were last year, it was really hard for them to keep up. So that's why I said it's kind of been a testament to our producers being able to keep up with that as well. It doesn't matter what demand is like if you don't have the products there to sell. So I talked a little bit about a lot of the signage and the redesign of the market too, that I think has been a huge help. And I think we've done a little bit better job with our marketing too. Like, if you ever want to, guys, you can go to our website, and you should get a pop-up that asks you to sign up for our weekly email. And that goes out at this point to, like, I think 4,000 individuals get our email every single Monday. And it talks about all the news that's going on in the co-op, what our specials are, new products that are coming in, programs that we have going on. And we just didn't have that kind of focus, 2 or 3 years ago when I first got enrolled. And we've just seen a lot of positive momentum come from that. As you know, when things are going well, it's easy to kind of build. And with so many tasty products there, it's hard for us not to sell them. Sometimes might be the best way to say it. All right. And one other thing I wanted to mention that didn't make it onto that slide that I wanted to kind of promote a little bit here, as I'm running out of time. I just looked at the time. Local Roots has always been a community hub for itself a little bit, which is a lot. We have 250 producers sometimes, and working through all of that and people's interest in what they want to do and having little programs that operate within always kind of keeps it active and interesting for people that want to come and shop the store. But Local Roots is also really interested in being more engaged and involved outbound within the rest of the community. So that's something that, if you're paying attention to us, I hope you've noticed. that we're getting a lot more active and working with other organizations, whether it's nonprofits or for-profits or anything in between. But we're interested in kind of being there for people and helping and promoting our mission and growing. So for those of you who are out there that are kind of doing the same thing, think about us next time you're planning an event or you want to partner with somebody or do a collaboration. I just want to kind of extend that out there to the community and tell you how open and eager we are. And I'm going to get out of my presentation here and stop sharing my screen and let you guys see my face again. So thank you for sticking with me. Thanks for letting me talk with you. I wanted to open up the floor and just ask if there are any questions that I could field or comments you may have.
Anybody with questions?
This is Jane Meyer. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. Most of you know I work at AEP, but my husband and I also own a farm and a butcher shop, and we are one of the producers that sell to local routes. And I can attest to, as a producer, just what a great organization it is, how welcoming it is, how much they want to help you succeed, as well as just, and I've commented to Adam the last couple of times, it is so inviting when you walk in there. It has definitely gone from more of a warehouse kind of feel to a real grocery store, as it will. And they're just always constantly evolving with the products that they offer. And if you don't make like the lunches or the, even if you want to stop and pick up something to heat up at home, just the quality there is really something awesome to have. And Worcester's lucky to have it. We attempted to do the same thing in Ashland. It hasn't been as successful. So I would just really try and support it if you could, just because what they're doing is really something unique and really something special in Worcester.
Thank you, Jan. Joy, do you have any questions? I had a couple come through here, but unless you have.
I was typing a question of my own, but let's ask if you have some other questions. Go ahead.
I just had, Adam, is there a typical demographic for your customers? Have you seen the typical demographic?
Yeah, and that's definitely changed over the years. I think that whole I want to know where my food comes from thing existed way before Local Roots. And so when Local Roots got started, it did a really good job just naturally capturing that kind of farmers market crowd, food conscious, health conscious, want to eat fresh and healthy kind of a crowd. And as the commercial kitchen and the cafe kitchen got up and running, you started to see these really kind of wild and creative ideas come out where, Katie's making pierogies, or maybe Josh and Jamie are doing kind of Latin fusion types of foods. It's really stuff that you would see like on the Food Network or on a cooking channel on Netflix or something like that. Like some of the plates that are coming out are really impressive to people that are into food. And so when you look at that change a little bit, like that's not necessarily the farmers market crowd that we're taking with us. That's a little bit more of the foodie crowd, I would say, that are just that, just make it taste good is kind of what I might say. And then as it's changed over the last year or so, the health conscious crowd, or like I said, we've really seen a spike in people that are virus conscious, that just want to be able to go there and stay safe. And so maybe if I had to categorize it, that's how I would have documented the changes over time.
Hey, Adam, can you speak a little bit about other ways that you help producers and farmers? Because I know you've taken on some projects recently with packaging and marketing and licensure and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So Local Roots has kind of always had this in its framework to want to be able to help producers. But until it really got its market up and running, it wasn't able to do it. And in the last year or two, we've doubled back on that a little bit. where it's always been kind of been a place where somebody could come in and say, hey, I have an idea. I want to make something. I'm not 110% sure how to do it because I've never done it before. And there's, 200 people within our network that have done it. They know how to get food and put it into a package and label it and be able to legally sell it. And so we've seen an opportunity now where we can kind of go back to that original idea and be able to truly help people, and not just like an isolated way, but a programmatic way. So like a farmer, for example, a month ago came to us and they said, hey, I really noticed that like I'm growing organic spinach. It's hand-picked, it's local, it's fairly priced, but people just aren't buying it. And we look at the label and we realize that like, maybe you're a great farmer, but you're not necessarily a great graphic designer. That's not a problem because we have graphic designers in our network that can help you. So they drew up a new label and you saw the sales go up for 450% in the first week that we put a new label on the product. Or like one of our chefs that came up through the ranks recently, if you haven't had the curry food on Saturday from the Curry Pot, it's really good. They're really nice people too, but this is their first time in business. So they've never started a business before. And they came to me and said like, hey, we want to be able to set up a QuickBooks account and we don't know how to do it. And that might, if you've done that for your whole life, it might seem very simple, but if you've never done that before, it's daunting. And Local Roots now has that opportunity to be able to sit down with them and walk them through step by step. This is exactly what you need to do, or offer legal services, if they want to register their business and they don't know how to do it. And the list kind of goes on and on and on. I could probably give you 200 examples of just small businesses that have an idea and they want to get going, but they don't know how to do it. And Local Roots is able to help with that.
Any other questions for Adam?
Adam, just one question. This is Peggy Schmitz. I've noticed a lot of regionally produced products in the store recently. Could you talk about sourcing products regionally?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that we want to do when we look outside of our immediate community for foods is to see if there's something that is available here. So in a lot of ways, like pretty much all of the produce and the meats and the eggs and the dairy and the consumables of things that you're going to eat all still come from like a 3-county radius. There has been some sourcing recently from a group out of Oberlin that does distribution of Northeast Ohio produce. So you're kind of seeing, like, if you're watching the produce right now, it's getting a little bit less Wayne County focused, but just because the supply isn't there. And then when we look at more like regionally produced things, like if something's coming out of Indiana, Kentucky, New York, for example, something that we looked at is like a lot of that stuff geographically in terms of distance isn't really that much farther from us than say Cincinnati is. So from a distance standpoint, some of them are coming from a little bit further away, but really what we're focusing on first and foremost is the quality of the product and the transparency of the company that makes it. So if what we try to kind of emulate a little bit is, like I talked about, how important transparency is to co-ops. That is something that we really don't want to ever fall back on. Like, you should be able to go into Local Roots and read a label and know everything about that product. And that's like the first and foremost thing. Like, we want people to know what's in the ingredients, where does it come from? Can I go to a website and get more information? And a lot of those companies that we're picking up have public transparency reports, so that you can go on it, because it's important to them too. You can go onto their website and see exactly where the products are coming from, who makes it, where their money's going. And so you know kind of what you're getting behind and what you're supporting. Did that help answer your question, Peggy?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Adam, this is Ron. My wife shops there, so I don't really know your products very well, but it's my understanding that you don't have a liquor license. Is that correct? And I'm wondering about locally made ciders or craft beers. Are you able to sell that, or is that in your future?
we are not able to sell it currently. It is in our future. We applied for a beer and wine carryout license, not for on-site consumption. But we are holed up in the pandemic and the Division of Liquor Control working remotely, I think, and being massively behind schedule. So it's one of those like kind of wait and see. We applied and we've been approved, and it's been 8 months and we haven't got our license yet. But yeah, we do want to be able to support those kind of producers as well.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else for Adam? Adam, great presentation, man. Nicely done. Congratulations to you and all the folks at Local Roots, a true asset to not only downtown, but Wooster and Wayne County. So well done on kind of just growing things and modernizing things too along the way. Very well done. So Joy, do you have any closing remarks at all you'd like to share?
I don't think so. Adam
Okay.
did a great job. Thanks.
Yeah, Adam, nicely done. And again, you're pretty accessible if people want to get a hold of you. You're usually around the market, and then also I will make sure your contact information gets shared too if there's any follow-ups. So.
Sorry, Justin, one thing we should mention that Madhavi is on the call too, and she is also a board member. So
Okay, Madhavi's on here. Yep, Uday's wife, Madhavi, is on here, and she's also a board member of Local Roots. So yes, awesome. Folks, we appreciate your time on a beautiful Monday morning, now afternoon. Everybody have a great week. Enjoy some fellowship with your close family and friends throughout the week. And as always, when it's the Buckeyes week, let's go Bucks, and hopefully they beat Alabama tonight. So thanks so much for being here, folks. Adam, thanks again. Have a good week, everyone.